Welcome back to Hardball. On Tuesday night, David Letterman made a joke.
One awkward moment for Sarah Palin at the Yankee game. During the 7th inning, her daughter was knocked up by Alex Rodriguez.
Well, the Palins reacted strongly, blasting Letterman for joking about what Todd Palin, the father, called the raping of their 14-year-old daughter, Willow, who was also at the game. Here's Letterman reacting to it all last night.
Were the jokes in question in questionable taste? Of course they were. Of course. Do I regret having told them? Well, I think probably I do. But you know what? There are thousands of jokes I regret telling on this program. Would I do anything to advocate or contribute to underage sexual abuse or misconduct? Absolutely not. Not in 1,000 years. Look at me. Do I look like I'm trying to make trouble?
And here's Todd Palin's latest statement, quote, "Nice attempt by Letterman to draw the heat away from himself. However, Willow was the only one at the Yankees game and the only Palin shot included in the photo opportunities with the Giulianis. As was obvious, regardless of which Palin daughter it was, Bristol, Willow, or Piper, these sexually perverted comments are outside the acceptance of mainstream America." Well, syndicated columnist Kathleen Parker joins us right now for more on the governor. Kathleen, my friend, I just find this fascinating. I don't think it's smart, generally, to pick fights with comics. They're funny, they're smart, they love it, and it's good for their ratings. Is this something that Sarah can win, this feud?
Chris, I'm so sorry. I can't hear.
Okay.
I'm not able to hear. I'm so sorry.
Well,
I assume you're asking me whether that was acceptable on any level. And, you know, my response, without having actually heard the question, is no. I think you don't ever go there with children. Children are simply off limits. And even if one of the girls is 18 years old, that's still not acceptable. So I'm on the team that says Letterman was way, way over the top on that. Well, I hope I've answered your question, but I'm still not hearing very clearly.
Well, you've certainly given me your verdict, Kathleen. We're going to come right back and fix this sound problem we're having between the East and West Coast. We're back with Kathleen Parker talking about this little back and forth between David Letterman and Governor Palin of Alaska. You believe basically that this guy, David Letterman, was just off base, period. No discussion of either daughter. Used the terms like knocked up or just off base, period, in this regard.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's very crude language to use anyway, especially when it's directed toward children. I mean, one of the girls is 14, the other is 18. And the 18-year-old, by the way, we all know has gone through a pregnancy and had a child, and she's handled herself with great dignity and grace. So I just think, you know, the kids of politicians are off limits unless they actually insert themselves into the political arena, as, for example, somebody like Meghan McCain has done. She's clearly ready to rumble, and I mean that in a non-sexual way.
Well, let's talk about this big fight here about Palin's role in the Republican Party. Is it good for her to be this high profile? Clearly, she doesn't mind this fight. She's taking it on. She could have walked away. Her husband could have walked away. I think they're kind of into this, not just in self-defense. What's your view?
Yeah, I think they're into this. I mean, it's very hard, I'm sure, to go from the vice presidential campaign, go from the trail, go from the auditoriums filled with cheering crowds, and to be involved in politics at that level, and then to have to go back to Alaska. I mean, I'm sure she loves Alaska and all of that, but still, it's a different game, as you well know. So I think they're enjoying it. And by the way, I don't mean they're enjoying the comments, but they've responded in a very sophisticated way, very political way, by saying not only were the comments inappropriate, but they're typical of that Hollywood, New York, you know, sort of elitist group of people who don't understand mainstream America. So they're probably, Sarah Pack's probably raised $500,000 this afternoon.
Well, what do you think?
Very smart.
I mean, Kathleen, you're one of the people I talk to on the sort of the moderate right, and it seems to me you're always focused on these gender issues pretty effectively. You understand them, you know, certainly as a woman. Do you think this is a woman who could lead the Republican Party somewhere down the road, say in 4 or 8 years? Could she carry the banner for the Republican Party nationally?
I don't think so, no. I think Sarah Palin has lots of talent. She's got lots of potential. You know, she really would have to bone up in a big way on national policy issues. I don't think that the party itself actually sees her in that role. They want her around because she's great. You know, she walks into a room, people go wild. She raises money like nobody else. But I don't think they're confident in her abilities to lead at that level. In fact, they're in a little bit of a bind because the base loves her, and the base sees her as Sister Sarah. But what do? You know, they can't just sort of kick her out, and so they're kind of stuck. And there's a lot of that conversation going on.
Well, I guess I disagree with everybody about this because I think she's a hot political property. I think this personality, in a drab world of generally boring guys, if you will, in politics, she stands out. Here she is, and I know how she gets into a fight. I think she enjoys the fight. I think she's good at it. Here she is with Sean Hannity on Fox the other night. Let's listen.
Had in mind for us. Well, that is where we are headed. That is, and we have to be blunt enough and candid and honest enough with Americans to let them know that if we keep going down these roads, nationalizing many of our services, our projects, our businesses, yes, that is where we would head. And that's why Americans have to be paying attention. And we have to have our voices heard. And ultimately, it needs to be our will, the American people's will, imposed on Washington instead of the other way around.
Kathleen, in your column, you said she's not ready. Quote, Palin's problem is the same as it was a year ago. She isn't ready. For whatever reason, skittishness, distrust, or quite possibly executive weakness, Palin has been unable to make the transition from Alaska politics to the big game hunt of the national arena. I guess the question is, you say she's not ready. She's got her fans out there, especially on the right. It seems to me that she is ready for this country to really divide left and right. And if there is a big division between those who see hope with government, see the necessity of government, and those who see government as the villain, she'll be ready.
You know, she is a populist candidate, and I agree with everything you say in terms of her ability to make the scene more interesting, but I just don't see her, at least not yet, being able to win a national election, I think, if that's what we're talking about. And part of her, you know, one of the things that's happened since the fall election is that Sarah Palin has had this massive support from the base. Lots of people have formed pro-Sarah Palin organizations. They're throwing money at her. Some very serious Republican people have gotten involved and tried to help her organize her message, organize her organization, which doesn't exist because I hear there are just boxes and boxes of unopened mail. She doesn't answer calls. She's treated some of the Republicans within the party what they consider rather rudely, and so they are losing their affection for her. So whether she can overcome the party organization, you know, and succeed without them, I think is rather doubtful.
Kathleen, this is such a familiar human situation. There are people in this world who, when you tell them they need a little more training, they say, screw you. They don't want a little more training. They want to be treated as equals or superiors, and the last thing they want to hear from someone like you is, go home and do your homework. Kathleen Parker, thanks for joining us. By the way, Kathleen has one of the fastest growing columns in the country.